Okay, so we're gonna work on the Photoshop. So we're gonna open it up. You can see that there's recent work, or you could press open, but my fruit bowl is right there from my still life. So I'm gonna grab it, open it up, and get started. So here is my still life. I'm gonna show you over here as the layers menu. It brings in the picture as the background layer and it is locked. So that means that it's gonna be my background layer and will be there at all times. I'm decided to move over the screen so you can see things better. This is my toolbox, of course, over here, and this is my shapes. So first thing I want to do is figure out what kind of shape I would like to use. So I am using the circle or ellipse tool to draw, and that is right there. So now I am going to draw an ellipse tool, a circle of the fruit. And I'm looking at the fruit, like what kind of shape could they be, getting organized of what I would like to put in. I have now made my shape, realized my zoom was still on, that's not gonna help anything. Go up to the top and I am now grabbing my move tool. The move tool looks like a little compass and that allows you to move things around your area. So now you can see it's also a layer here and it's highlighted with gray, the lighter gray, making sure you know that you're on that layer and you can move that layer. There is a little square that allows you to change colors. I do want to change the color on this guy. I'm going to double click on the square and pick out a color for the one that I'm drawing. See, now it's changed colors. Have to press OK on my color picker. And now I'm on the move tool. I double checked and I'm gonna move that orange where I want it. It's a little bigger than I wanted, but it's not the end of the world. Oh no, it's the right size. Where am I putting? Now I am going to transform it so that make it the right size. I'm showing you that under edit transform, there's scale, rotate, skew, distort, perspective, warp. Um, so those give you all kind of options for that. Or you could use free transform, which is what I use mostly, which is Command T shortcut. Command T is an easy way to remember that. It's like a transformer. It's going to change what you're doing. So Command T is a great shortcut to use when you're in any program. A lot of programs use that code as a way to do scaling. I actually think you can do that in Adobe Draw too. So now I'm making another circle for the lemon this time. You can see I'm dragging it out. I tend to do this where I do the color afterwards. I think it's an easier process, but there is a way to do it before. I kind of always get messed up on that, so I tend to do it afterwards. And then I drag my lemon where I want it to be. I definitely in Photoshop like to use the Command T tool and transform it after I have drawn the circle that I want to use. It becomes quite fast. This video I have slowed down to halftime of what I normally do it in. Here we go, another circle. And now I'm looking at what other shapes might I use. I'm going to use, for the pear shape, I am going to go down to Polygon tool in the drawer and up at the top, which I realize now I did not um, show you the properties bar. But there's a properties bar at the top. I'm changing it to rounded corners and I'm changing it to 3 angles. There we go. So you can see here, there's the rounded corners, smooth corners, and then when I drew this, you'll see now, I realized I left on the star thing from when the other day when I was showing everybody how to make a star. So I was like, oops, I don't want that. I want to get rid of that. So I'm gonna undo the little star check mark, just making sure everything else looks good. I'm gonna undo the star check mark eventually. And I'm gonna throw that one away. So to throw it away, I can take that layer and drag it and drop it into the trash can. Easy peasy, gone forever. Nobody will even know that I made that mistake, except for all of you. And now I draw about where I want my pear shape to be, about the size. Again, I'm doing it afterwards, so I'm double clicking the little square and I'm gonna grab the color from the pear. I do like using the eyedropper for color. I think it's fun and I think it's easier. And then you get the right colors. And it doesn't let me do anything until I press OK. I also was back on the shape tool, so I want to make sure I'm back on my move tool. I tend to go right back to move tool every time I do something. So do think about that. Like make sure you're on the move tool. It's a great tool because you don't like do 100 shapes clicking or uh fonts or something when you're on the move tool, and it helps you to move items around, select items so you can do things to them. So definitely the move tool is your home base for everything. So here I'm trying to get the color ahead of time. So I'm going to go ahead and pick a color of the plate here. And I'm trying to get the right white. You can see I'm moving around my color picker tool. And I'm going to make the plate. So now I'm going to drag that shape out. I thought that was going to be a good shape for the plate too. Eventually, I think I decided not to use that shape. I used a circle, but oh, and now I'm moving back into regular time, maybe a little sped up speed, but to show you a little quicker of what I'm doing. So again, here's where I throw away that shape because it just wasn't curving at the right angle for me. And I decide to do a circle instead. So it looks more like a bowl. Again, double clicking, changing the color, moving it, transforming, Command T to transform it. So, oh no, it's in front. So one thing to think about is putting it in the back layer. To do that, you're gonna take a layer and drag it and drop it down below the rest of it. I also want to name it so that I know what layer is my plate layer. That way I never put any fruit behind it. It's already looking better already because we can see the circles and the ellipse tool and the polygon and all that stuff. But you can see here, I'm moving around the layers and always just put your mouse on the layer and drag it. Picking out a color again, trying to do it ahead of time. Ah, they changed how that worked, so I haven't figured out the best way to do it. Moving. So here we see that this apple is actually behind that pear and the orange. So I want to drag it and make sure it goes behind. And maybe I want to change the color. Continue to make my shapes here. I'm going to speed this up just a little bit more. Okay, so here I continue to make my shapes and I'm dragging them, dropping them so they go into their spaces, making sure their color looks good. Remember that overlapping is a way to make things look like they're going back into space. I realize here that the plate is not at the bottom of my screen and I'm missing a bunch of shapes that I just made. So this is when I rename my piece plate, my plate. And I put it all the way at the bottom of the layers menu. Now, I am going to go on layer style. To get to that, you double click on your layer and hit on drop shadow. I'm going to put the shadow from where the light direction is, which is the left-hand side. I want to show you, see it's on that orange one because that was the layer I was working on. Probably wasn't the easiest for the demo. But there's the spread. I still wanted to move it so you could see what was happening. The spread actually makes it lighter, softer. The distance gives it more. The opacity gives it darker, more see-through. Opacity is the visual, um, how see-through it is. Press OK. And now you're going to see it says Effects Drop Shadow. And once you do one, it stays, so you just press the little click and it will do the next layer, and then you go down the layer menus until you have all of your layers got a drop shadow on it, making it look like cut out paper, which is cool. And very similar to our Zing tangles that we drew and shaded in drop shadow, this time we're just using a computer to do the same thing. Okay, so now I'm taking all the layers and I have sped it up and I'm clicking on each layer and hitting onto the drop shadow. The drop shadow is going to be the same on each one because I actually did that. Here I'm moving the plate layer to the back again because I lost more oranges and I'm renaming the oranges too. You can always click on that. Okay, so here I want to just show you how to save it. So I know this isn't complete, but just to make sure you remember how to save it. So go File, Export um, for export as for Google Classroom, and you're going to save it as a JPEG. I'm using all the normal setups. So export, and then you want to make sure you know where you're saving it. Mine is getting saved on the desktop because it says desktop right there at the on the left hand side, and also right underneath where I'm writing in the name. Always write in a name so you know what you're looking for, and press export, save, whatever it says. And now put it on your Google Classroom. Great job.